What is going on, people? TripleM back again with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Chelsea as they are in complete and utter shambles following their embarrassing loss 2-1 away from home against Fulham yesterday evening. They now sit 10th in the Premier League and they have lost 7 of their last 10 games. They are in turmoil, and today I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about why that is. Why did Chelsea look so terrible under Graham Potter? Because I've spoken about Todd Boehly, I've spoken about the transition, the transfers, and all the other things happening at board and executive level at Chelsea. But now I think it's time we had an honest conversation about this man on screen. Graham Potter on the 8th of September took over at Chelsea, and he probably felt like a kid in a massive candy shop, a massive candy factory that he had never seen before. It was a dream job. Fast forward to where we are now, and he is probably hating it. He's living through his worst possible nightmare. Struggling to get the team playing the way he wants them to play, struggling to get key senior players to actually lead by example, actually be motivated, and actually show the level of discipline and the exemplary performances that you would want of the senior figures. I'm talking about the Thiago Silvas. I'm talking about the Koulibalys. I'm talking about the Mason Mounts, the Kai Havertz. They were awful yesterday evening, particularly Koulibaly. He was terrible. Now, I know he got a 7.2 on SofaScore. I know he scored the goal, but he was culpable in part for Fulham's first few waves of attack, because there was a moment where Chalobah made a mistake, but Koulibaly rushes over to try help him instead of watching the man on the back post, and inevitably that leads to a chance for Fulham, and they eventually go 1-0 up. It's absolutely terrible, and that for me points all the way back to the manager. And the reason why I say it points back to the manager is because I feel like he's struggling to get a hold of that dressing room. I feel like he's struggling to get these senior players to buy into his ideas. We know that Graham Potter is an eccentric manager. He's an unorthodox manager. He has very strange tactics and formations that he likes to play, things that you wouldn't consider ordinary. So to bring those principles to a club the size of Chelsea, when you haven't really proven it at the highest level, it's not really going to go down well with certain senior players. We've seen it before in the past with Chelsea players, in fact, where player power takes precedence over manager power because the players just, quite frankly, don't respect the manager. And that's the thing with Potter. He doesn't have the ego of a Conte. He doesn't have the ego of a Pep Guardiola, or the CV of a Conte or a Pep Guardiola, or the CV of an Ancelotti, or the CV of any other big name manager, where he can come in and say, hey, shut up and listen to me because I've won X amount of trophies, and if you don't listen to me, we're going to fail. Right? He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that leverage. And I think that is preventing him from getting through to these Chelsea players. So that's at least one of the things that's preventing him from getting through to these Chelsea players. The other thing is I feel like he doesn't know his tactics. He doesn't know his best team. I'm sure he has a vision of how he wants Chelsea to play. I'm sure he has an idea and a philosophy in his head, but he doesn't know how to execute it, and he doesn't know which pieces fit the puzzle correctly. And the reason why I feel that way is in part due to the fact that he has been chopping and changing in certain areas, but in other areas leaving it completely still. Mason Mount still continues to start regardless of his form. Kai Havertz still continues to start regardless of his form. Now, I know what people will say. People will point towards the injuries, and pointing towards the injuries is fair, because if you look over here, there's a lot of injuries for Chelsea. Raheem Sterling is out. Christian Pulisic, the LeBron James of soccer, man, he's out. Mendy is out, which I don't really think makes a big difference in the grander scheme of things. Kante obviously is going to make a huge difference. He's been out for aeons. Reece James, he's been out. Ben Chilwell, he's been out. Fofana, he's been out. And he was a record signing, who, by the way, Potter didn't even sign. So there's a lot of issues that are beyond Potter's control. Obviously, there's obviously extenuating circumstances. But you can't tell me that Fulham, without their best player in Mitrovic, have a better starting 11 and a better overall team in terms of individual quality and individual attributes than Chelsea. You can't tell me Nottingham Forest have a better squad and a better team than Chelsea, even with all those injuries. I refuse to believe that. Man City, it is what it is. They're the best team in the country. You're probably going to lose to them if you're Chelsea, especially if you don't have your best players. But some of the teams they've lost to in the last 10 games and some of the performances they've put in are not justifiable by saying it's injuries, it's Todd Boehly, it's this. Todd Boehly doesn't stop you from tracking down a man on the back post. Todd Boehly doesn't stop you from actually closing down 50-50s. Todd Boehly doesn't stop you from applying yourself and having a good work ethic as a player who is meant to be a world-class centre-back who came from Napoli, or as a player who scored a goal in the final of the Champions League final, or as a player who came to the academy and is supposedly a symbol of what Chelsea's youth system can produce in Mason Mount. right? Like this stuff, some of this stuff has nothing to do with the board. I always say it on my channel. There are things that have nothing to do with skill, talent, and external factors. It's all about you. It's all about your mindset. Are you going to apply yourself? Are you going to go the extra 15%? Are you going to track down the run? Are you going to do the things that have nothing to do with skill or talent and actually work hard and play for the crest, play for the badge in which you claim to love? I don't see it. I don't see it from some of these Chelsea players. And I've got to be honest, man, the fact that their new signing got sent off is symbolic of everything that's going wrong at Chelsea. Because don't get me wrong, João Felix was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. Before the red card, he was pulling the strings. He was the catalyst of everything positive in Chelsea's team. He was the catalyst for not every, but a lot of their positive attacks and their positive moments in the game. He was the funnel of creativity. He was brilliant, but then he got sent off. And it's just typical. It's absolutely typical. Now, he will miss, I think, 3 games and only come back sometime in February. So of the 21 games he was supposed to play on loan with Chelsea, he can now only play 18. That means Chelsea are paying 11 million to Atletico Madrid, plus the wages of João Felix, I believe. I don't know if it's included in that, for 18 games. And then, worst case scenario, he plays badly, he goes back to Atletico Madrid, his valuation is low and you can buy him anyways. Best case scenario, he plays out of his mind. He miraculously pulls Chelsea out of this rut, and he is the reason Chelsea end up in a respectable position at the end of the season. Atletico Madrid take him back anyways. Wah, wah. Right? Like, it's a deal that confuses me beyond belief. And this is what I said in my video when João Felix signed for Chelsea. Even if he does help Chelsea to play better football, what are you going to do in the summer when he goes back to Atletico Madrid? You're going to pay 100 million for him. Because inevitably, if he plays well now, his valuation will go up in the summer and he will leave. So João Felix, his performance yesterday is symbolic in so many ways of what's going on at Chelsea. It's symbolic of how bad Potter's luck has been, the fact that his debut signing got sent off, but it's also symbolic of the board level, the short-termism of the signing, the lack of foresight, the lack of planning ahead for the future. It makes no sense. And the funny thing is, João Felix was creating, but nobody was finishing, which is what I said in my video. João Felix is not a goal scorer. He will be the guy who pulls the strings. He will be the guy who links the play up and is the link between everyone on the field. But he can't do it alone. Chelsea still need a cutthroat goal scorer, which they don't have. So even if Felix does well, it's done. It's absolutely toast for Chelsea this season. I'm not being salty. I'm not being a rival who refuses to take off his red-tinted glasses when I say I can't see Chelsea making the top 4 at the end of the season, and I can't even see them finishing 5th. I think they're going to finish 7th, 6th, maybe 8th in the Premier League table as things stand currently. And I don't think that's a ridiculous statement. And again, tying it back to Graham Potter, I think when I listen to his body language, when I listen to what he's saying, listen to his body language, watch his body language, and listen to what he's saying in press conferences, it sounds to me like his attitude has changed. When he first came to Chelsea, he was very positive, he was very complimentary, which most new managers are, let's be honest. But now it seems like he's got a bit of a defeatist attitude. It seems like now he's realized the mammoth task that is ahead of him. He thought he was walking up a very difficult hill, but it turns out he's walking up a very difficult mountain that many have tried to go up, but have been conquered and eaten by. That's what it looks like to me from the outside looking in as a rival. I'm not saying Potter should be sacked. I'm not one of those people. Potter should be given time. But from the outside looking in, it looks pretty bad. You can say a manager deserves time and still criticize the things that they're doing wrong, right? Like those two things can live together. You can focus on someone's shortcomings and say, I'm not saying they should be sold. I'm not saying their contract should be terminated, but they need to fix up 1, 2, 3. And that's all I'm doing with Potter. I look at him and he doesn't strike me as the type of ruthless leader that Chelsea need. As the guy who's going to go in there, give that team a proper bollocking, drop certain players regardless of their price tag, regardless of their status, and regardless of where they stand at the team. You've already lost every trophy. You might as well just play the kids, in my opinion, to send a message to some of the senior players. Play Chuameka, play Hutchinson, play Hall. Oh, well, Hall did play yesterday because Cucurella was so bad that Potter couldn't not drop him. But you know what I mean? Play these kids. Stop starting Mount every single game. Start starting Kai Havertz every single game. You're going to lose anyways, so you might as well just play the kids. That's my humble opinion. I know it might sound silly to some of you, but that's just the way I look at it. So for me, one of the biggest reasons why Chelsea are struggling at the moment, I think Graham Potter is slightly out of his depth, and he's going to have to make some massive adjustments between now and the summer in order to improve next season. B, I think player power, definitely. is a huge problem. Senior players just not trying, just not working hard enough. And C, I think the club as a whole have just checked out this season. I think there's a feeling around Chelsea that the season has been written off, which again is a defeatist attitude. It's a loser mindset. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. It's been your boy TripleM. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Peace.